The first thought that crossed my mind when I opened my eyes after 30 days in a coma wasn't, "Thank God I'm alive." It was, "Did they find the safe?" My name is Elena Volkov, 62 years old. I spent 3 decades building an empire from nothing, while guarding secrets even my children didn't know. I came to the U.S. from Ukraine with 1 suitcase and a few hard lessons about trust, or the lack of it. Before I left, my grandmother pulled me aside. "Lyubov moya," she whispered, "never keep everything in one place. Always have a plan B, and tell no one." Back then, I thought she was paranoid. Decades of living under Soviet rule, hiding valuables in walls, never trusting anyone. But lying in that hospital bed in Portland, tubes down my throat, machines breathing for me, I realized she wasn't paranoid. She was wise. Because while I was fighting for my life, Marcus and Jennifer, my own children, weren't by my side. They were busy selling my 3-story home in Lake Oswego, liquidating properties, draining my bank accounts. They weren't holding my hand. They were in lawyers' offices, signing papers, dividing everything I had built, like vultures circling something still warm. I learned young that family doesn't always mean loyalty. I watched my father lose everything to his own brother back in Ukraine. I saw it again when my husband left me and tried to take half of what I'd built. People you love can betray you deeper than any stranger ever could. So I prepared, always. Inside the house they rushed to sell. My Lake Oswego home with its perfect garden and lake view was something they would never find. Hidden behind walls, under floors, built into the very structure I designed with my own hands. I didn't know it yet, but the car crash on Interstate 5 wouldn't be the worst thing that happened that September. The betrayal had only begun to unfold. And what my children didn't know, what they could never imagine, was that a woman who survived post-Soviet poverty, built an empire in a foreign land, and trusted no one, always has an ace up her sleeve. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 6 months earlier, when the signs began. When I started planting cameras, when I started quietly moving assets where they'd never look. Because deep down, I knew this day would come. 6 months before the crash, I was in the basement installing the last of 17 hidden security cameras. Not the obvious ones Marcus and Jennifer knew about, the ones blinking red in the corners. Those were decoys. The real cameras were tucked into smoke detectors, picture frames, clocks, all connected to a private encrypted cloud. Only I and one other person knew, Dmitry, a fellow Ukrainian I paid well for his silence. "Mrs. Volkov," he asked while mounting the final camera in my office, "why so much security? Are you afraid of burglars?" "No," I answered, watching Marcus's brand new BMW pull into the driveway, bought with money he didn't have. "I'm afraid of betrayal, and betrayal always comes from inside." Dmitry nodded. He understood. That night, Marcus and Jennifer came for dinner. I cooked my grandmother's borscht. Hours of work. Jennifer pushed her beets around with that look she always had, disdain disguised as concern over calories. "Mama," she began in that syrupy tone she used when she wanted something, "have you thought about simplifying your life?" Simplifying? Their favorite code word for, "Give us your money before you die." "How so, dear?" I asked lightly, tightening my grip on the fork. Marcus jumped in, always the spokesman. "This house is huge. You climb those stairs every day. What if you fall? You're alone here." "I'm 62, not 92. I run 5 kilometers every morning. I do yoga 3 times a week." "Exactly our point." Marcus leaned forward like he was closing a deal. "You're alone. Dad's gone. Wouldn't it be practical to move into something smaller? A modern apartment? Low maintenance?" "And what would happen to this house?" I asked calmly, though I already knew. They exchanged that look, the same look my uncle gave my father before stealing the family business. "Well," Jennifer said slowly, "we could sell it, invest the money for you. Marcus is great with finances. Marcus is great at losing money gambling, I thought, but I kept silent. For now. This house has memories, I said softly. This is where you grew up, where I rebuilt our lives after Ukraine. Exactly, Marcus said, and in his tone I heard it. He didn't see memories. He saw market value. That night, after they left, I went down to the basement. Behind an old, broken heater was a hidden panel. Behind that panel, the real safe, invisible to anyone but me. Inside, deeds, certificates, legal documents, trusts they didn't know existed, all protected in a way that would take years to legally unravel. Grandma was right, always have a plan B. The visits became more frequent after that. Not visits of love, inspections. Marcus started showing up with a leather briefcase, casually asking about documents. Mama, where do you keep the important papers? Will, deeds, insurance policies? Everything should be organized, in case, you know. In case what, Marcus? I asked from the doorway, watching him rummage through drawers. In case something happens, he said without looking up. Life is unpredictable. Or planned, I thought. He found the fake safe behind my desk, placed just where someone nosy would find it. Inside were useless copies, enough to satisfy him. For now. This is all, he asked, flipping through the decoys. Everything you need to know, I replied. He narrowed his eyes, sensing layers he couldn't reach. That night, I reviewed the hidden camera footage. Marcus alone in my office for 15 minutes, photographing documents, taking notes, tapping on walls like a treasure hunter. He was mapping my empire. Jennifer, meanwhile, played the emotional card. She brought my granddaughter, Sophie, more often, always perfectly timed. Grandma, Sophie would say sweetly, clearly rehearsed. Mommy says you have lots of houses. Why don't we live in one? Sophie needs stability, Jennifer would add, eyes glossy with fake tears. The apartment is so small. Just one house, Mama. You wouldn't even miss it. But I would. Every property represented years of labor, cleaning houses at night, working in laundries by day, saving every tip. I knew every crack in those walls. Jenny, I explained patiently, those properties bring in $12,000 a month. That's my security, my retirement. Security? Marcus laughed, dripping with contempt. You're sitting on millions while your own children struggle. Struggle. Marcus drove an $80,000 car. Jennifer had just come back from Cabo. Maybe if you spent less, I began. Don't turn this on us, Marcus snapped. This is about you refusing to help your family after everything we've done for you. Everything they'd done for me. I was speechless. That night, I made moves. I wired $800,000 to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, a bank with Ukrainian ties that valued discretion. I updated my will through a different lawyer in a different city, and I installed 3 more hidden cameras. If they were going to betray me, and every instinct told me they would, I'd have every word, every plan, every lie recorded. If betrayal was coming, I'd be ready and watching. 3 weeks before the crash, Marcus arrived with experts. A wealth manager named David Preston and an attorney named Gerald Hughes, both with the polished smiles of men who smell blood in the water. We sat at my kitchen table. David unfolded glossy charts like they were gospel. Mrs. Volkov, he began, pen-tapping numbers. Your portfolio is outdated. You're leaving at least 6% on the table annually. I sleep just fine with my returns, I said, pouring tea. Marcus gave him the tiniest nod. Push harder. Gerald laced his fingers. The real concern is succession. If something happened to you, your assets could be tied up in probate for years. Your children wouldn't see a cent. Interesting, I said evenly. I rewrote my will last month. The air in the room shifted. Marcus's smile cracked. Jennifer's eyes flicked to him in panic. You rewrote it, Jennifer asked, voice a register too high. With who? Why didn't you tell us? Why would I replied. It's my estate, not a group project. It's not about permission, Marcus snapped, composure slipping. It's about transparency. We're your family. We have a right to know. A right? I stood so quickly my chair scraped the tile. You have the right to what I choose to give, nothing more, and certainly not the right to parade strangers through my home to teach me how to spend money I earned. Gerald raised his palms. Conciliatory. No one is questioning your capability, Mrs. Volkov. It's just that, statistically, women your age— Get out, I said. All of you. They gathered their papers in stunned silence. At the door, Jennifer turned with glassy eyes that never quite produced tears. We're trying to help you, Mama. The door clicked behind them. I exhaled and headed straight for my office computer. I opened the private cloud, pulled up the feed from the hidden corridor camera, hit play, clip 1, hallway, 6:42 p.m., Marcus on the phone, voice low and hard. She rewrote the will, we don't know with whom, we need to accelerate the timeline. Clip 2, entryway, 6:51 p.m. Jennifer whispering to Gerald, how long would it take to get power of attorney if she had an accident or went under? Gerald hesitates. With the right medical documentation, days, a week, maybe? And if she objects? If she's deemed incapable, her objection doesn't matter. I saved the clips in 3 places, labeled, time-stamped, backed up to an offline drive. Then I went to the basement one more time. The old metal heater sat in the far left corner, silent, useless, perfect. I slid the hidden panel, top right 3 presses, bottom left twice. The wall plate eased back with the softest sigh. Inside the built-in safe, I placed a thick envelope containing printed transcripts of the worst recordings with timestamps and camera IDs. A summary of the offshore account and the LLC structure for the 2 commercial properties. Contact info for Mark Reynolds, the family fraud attorney I'd quietly consulted months earlier. Instructions for Sarah Mitchell. What to do, who to call, where to move funds if anything accidental occurred. On top, a handwritten, notarized letter dated 6 months earlier. If you're reading this, something has happened to me. If that something is sudden, assume my children will seek control of my estate. Do not trust their emergency paperwork. Use the enclosed contacts. Survivor's plan. Predator's rush. So-V. I closed the panel. The house felt different, calmer, as if the walls themselves knew the truth was finally armed. Upstairs, my phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. We love you. Let's talk when you're calmer. I stared at it until the screen went dark. 3 days later, on a rainy drive up I-5, my brakes would fail, and the game would begin. It was supposed to be just another rainy Tuesday in Portland. I was driving back from a supplier meeting on Interstate 5. Heavy rain, low visibility. I'd driven that road hundreds of times over the years, contracts signed, deals struck, the backbone of my business. But that day, something felt off. When I tapped the brakes near the Marquam Bridge on I-5, the pedal went straight to the floor, no resistance. For a split second, time froze. The wipers smeared rain across the windshield, horns blared around me, the guardrail rushed forward like a steel wall. Not like this, I thought. Not because of a stupid accident. I yanked the handbrake and swerved. The car spun, tires screeching on the wet asphalt. The world became a blur of headlights and rain until, crash. The impact was brutal. Metal against metal. Glass exploded like 1,000 tiny stars. My body slammed against the seatbelt. Then, darkness. They told me later the paramedics reached me in 5 minutes. Head trauma, broken ribs, internal bleeding. The doctors said it was a miracle I survived. Marcus and Jennifer arrived at the hospital the same night, but they didn't stay at my bedside holding my hand. No. While machines kept me alive, they met with my lawyer and filed for power of attorney, claiming I was permanently incapacitated. Within a week, they began selling everything. They didn't know the brakes had been inspected just 2 days before. They didn't know that one small report, buried in a file, would eventually expose everything. While I lay unconscious, they moved fast. Marcus brought in a notary. Jennifer played the grieving daughter. They presented forged medical evaluations, suggesting I would never recover mentally. With that, they secured control over every asset I owned: houses, business accounts, investment portfolios, everything. They sold my Lake Oswego house first, my sanctuary. The place where my grandmother's picture hung above the fireplace, where Sophie learned to walk on the wooden floors I'd refinished myself. Gone, sold within days for 20% below market price, just to move the cash fast. They emptied my personal accounts, liquidated stocks with massive penalties, sold antiques and jewelry. Marcus paid off his gambling debts and bought a Porsche. Jennifer invested in her fiancé Derek's shady business. They told friends I was in a vegetative state, that they were taking care of everything. Sarah, my most loyal employee and closest friend, tried to visit me at the hospital. They turned her away, saying family only. But Rosa, the night nurse, noticed. She overheard whispered phone calls, saw unfamiliar lawyers walking in and out with folders late at night. She saw Marcus signing papers by my bedside like a man claiming an inheritance before the body was cold. "Your children are efficient," one doctor muttered to Rosa. She didn't know how right she was. By the end of the 3rd week, they had stripped away 30 years of work like peeling wallpaper. What they didn't know was that beneath that wallpaper was reinforced concrete. Underneath that wallpaper, they were about to hit concrete and steel. It wasn't love or hope that pulled me back. It was rage. First a finger, then a toe, then my eyes. 6 brutal days later, I woke up. The room flooded with doctors, my throat burned, my body weak, but my mind was crystal clear, and my first thought, did they find the safe? That night, Rosa leaned in close, checking the hallway. "Mrs. Volkov, I shouldn't be saying this, but I heard things while you were in the coma, conversations your children had when they thought no one was listening." My voice was still weak, but steady. "What? Did you hear? They sold your house. They emptied your accounts. They transferred properties. They took everything." I feigned shock, but inside, I felt nothing but confirmation. "Do you have someone you trust?" she asked. "Sarah," I whispered. "Sarah Mitchell. She'll know what to do." "They took your phone," Rosa said they were keeping your belongings safe, but I can find her." "What company?" "Mitchell's Cleaning Solutions." Rosa nodded firmly. "I'll find her. And Mrs. Volkov, don't tell them we talked. Something about them doesn't sit right." She was right. Nothing about them was right. Sarah arrived the next day, tears in her eyes when she saw me awake. "Elena," she whispered, holding my hand with genuine warmth, so different from Jennifer's staged affection. "I tried calling for weeks. They told me you couldn't receive visitors, that only family was allowed. I should have pushed harder." "Sarah," I rasped urgently, "I need you to go to my house, Lake Oswego, the basement, old metal heater in the far left corner. Behind it, wooden panel." Her eyes widened. "The panel slides if you press the top right 3 times, bottom left twice. There's a built-in safe. Code 199120004. The year I came to America and the year I got divorced." "What's inside?" she asked. "Everything I need to destroy them," I whispered. "Documents, proof, instructions. Marcus and Jennifer don't know that safe exists. No one does. It's been my secret for 15 years. She exhaled slowly, realizing the weight of it. "They searched?" "I'm sure they did, but they'd never think to look inside a broken heater." I smiled faintly. My grandmother had taught me well. Hide your treasures where predators would never think to look. Sarah returned that night with a discreet bag over her shoulder. Her face was pale but determined. "I got it," she whispered, checking the hallway. "Elena, what you kept down there?" She opened the bag. Inside was the thick envelope and a small metal box with flash drives. "It's all here?" I asked, the first real wave of relief washing over me in weeks. "All of it. But Elena, these recordings." She shook her head in disbelief. "You recorded everything, every conversation, every plan. There's Marcus literally saying, 'Once she's gone,' and Jennifer agreeing to speed up the timeline." "I knew it," I said simply. 6 months before the accident, I started noticing the way they looked at my house, at me. I recognized the pattern. Family betrayal has a rhythm. She pulled out documents. "You have an offshore account, $800,000. Money I saved over 20 years, I explained. Small transfers, different sources, untraceable. And this," she held up another document. "A trust. 2 commercial properties generating $8,000 a month. Registered through LLCs. Your name doesn't appear anywhere." "They never knew," I said. "They thought they had mapped everything." Sarah flipped through more papers. "You even have proof Marcus owes nearly $400,000 in gambling debts. And Jennifer's fiancé, Derek, he has a criminal record for fraud." "I had both investigated months ago," I said. "I wasn't paranoid. I was prepared." Then came the transcripts, time-stamped conversations, printed line by line. "Marcus, if we get power of attorney, we can liquidate everything in weeks. She'll never know." "Jennifer, and if she wakes up?" "Marcus, then we say it was for her own good. What's she going to do? Sue her own kids?" Sarah looked up, her voice low. "They really thought you'd never find out." "They thought I was naive," I replied. "They forgot who I am." "What do you want to do with all this?" she asked. "First, contact Mark Reynolds," I said. "He's a lawyer who specializes in family fraud. I met him months ago. He'll know exactly what to do. And then? Then I recover, I get stronger. And when the time comes, I rise." Sarah gave a hard smile. "They have no idea who they're dealing with." "No," I said coldly. "But they're going to find out." Mark Reynolds showed up at the hospital disguised as a physical therapist. He wheeled in a fake stack of medical forms, then quietly spread out legal documents across the bed once we were alone. "Elena," he said after reviewing the flash drives, "power of attorney is meant to protect vulnerable people. What your children did, this isn't protection, it's calculated theft." 2 hours later, after watching recording after recording, he looked visibly shaken. "They planned this," he said flatly. "This isn't greed in the moment. It's premeditated fraud." "How long to build the case?" I asked. 3 to 4 months if we want it airtight. We'll track every transaction, document every sale, prove the pattern." "But Elena..." He looked at me carefully. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with them is over." "It already ended," I replied. "They ended it when they chose money over my life." While I pushed through brutal physiotherapy, Mark dug deep into their finances. What he found was worse than I imagined. They hadn't stolen $5.5 million. It was $5.8 million, down to jewelry, family antiques, art pieces I'd forgotten existed, and they spent it like conquerors. Marcus paid off his gambling debts, bought a $1.5 million mansion, a Porsche, a boat, luxury trips splashed all over Instagram. Jennifer opened a boutique, Elena's legacy, in the Pearl District, invested $300,000 into Derek's fake company, and burned through hundreds of thousands furnishing her new lifestyle. "They blew through almost $4 million in 6 weeks," Mark said, sliding spreadsheets toward me. "Like they thought they were untouchable." "Arrogance," I muttered. "They thought they'd already won." But then he showed me something that made the air leave my lungs. "Elena," he said carefully, "we need to talk about the accident. Your car had been inspected 2 days before, right?" Yes, everything was fine. And Marcus visited that morning? Said he heard something in the car? My blood ran cold. He was alone in the garage for 15 minutes while I made coffee. Mark placed the investigator's report in front of me. The brake lines were partially cut, not enough to fail immediately, just enough to give out under pressure. Like during heavy rain on the freeway. Silence. My children hadn't just waited for me to die. They had tried to make sure I did. We can't prove it was Marcus and Jennifer, Mark said slowly, choosing his words like a surgeon handling a scalpel. But the timing, it's damning. 2 days after you changed your will, Marcus checks your car, and 3 days later, your brakes fail during a storm. The word hung between us like poison, attempted murder. For a long moment, no one spoke. The steady beeping of the heart monitor filled the silence like a metronome ticking down to something inevitable. My own children tried to kill me, I finally said. My voice didn't shake. It was too cold for that. It wasn't disbelief, it was recognition. All the puzzle pieces I had been forcing into place for months suddenly clicked. I replayed every moment in my head with brutal clarity. Marcus's fake casual visit that morning. The sound of him closing the garage door. The smell of his cologne lingering in the hallway when I came downstairs. The way he said, "Car sounds funny. I'll take a quick look." 15 minutes. That's all it took. The wreck was too severe for forensic proof, Mark explained. The rain, the impact, the fire, they wiped away anything physical we could have used. But their words, the timing, the power of attorney filed days later, it's enough for a devastating circumstantial case. A jury would see it. Sarah sat beside me, her hand gently covering mine. Her warmth contrasted the icy clarity settling inside me. "Elena," she whispered, "what do you want to do?" I stared at the hospital window. Outside, the city was drenched in winter rain. Drops streaked down the glass like slow tears, but there were no tears left in me. Not for them. I inhaled deeply, not anger, not grief, determination. "You said 3 months to build the perfect case," I told Mark. "Then that's what we'll do. Every document, every word, every cent. No holes, no excuses, no escape." "And after that?" Mark asked carefully. "I won't destroy them," I said slowly, each word like a blade being unsheathed. "I'll let them destroy themselves. All I have to do is hold up the mirror." A sharp smile crept across Mark's face. "I can work with that." From that day on, everything shifted. The grief turned to focus. The hospital room became my war room. For the next 3 months, Marcus and Jennifer visited me like clockwork, wearing masks of concern, bringing flowers, asking rehearsed questions about my recovery. Their eyes always scanned the room, searching for signs of weakness. They didn't realize I was watching every blink, every pause, every fake smile. They lied through their teeth. I smiled back, quiet, patient, just like I'd learned to survive back home, where trust was a luxury and silence was a weapon. They had grown up in comfort. I had grown up surviving, and that would be their downfall. 3 months passed. 3 months living in a modest apartment Sarah rented under her name. 3 months of brutal rehab that made me stronger than before the accident. 3 months becoming someone new. Marcus and Jennifer told everyone I was in a long-term care facility with severe brain damage. They said I didn't recognize anyone, that I'd never fully recover. Meanwhile, I was running 5 kilometers every morning. "You look 10 years younger," Sarah said one morning over coffee. "I've stopped pretending," I replied. I softened myself for decades, for my kids, for everyone, and look where that got me. I cut my hair into a sharp, modern style, swapped soft clothes for structured suits. My makeup wasn't gentle anymore, it was deliberate. The old Elena was gone. Mark's legal fortress grew day by day, every transaction traced, every recording authenticated, Audio experts certified the files. Investigators followed the money. It was flawless. Sarah updated me constantly. Marcus bought another car, Porsche, $140,000. Add it to the evidence, I said calmly. Jennifer opened a second boutique in Nob Hill. She called it Elena's Legacy Collection. Using my name to sell clothes with my stolen money, I took note of everything. Meanwhile, Derek, the confiancé, vanished with her $300,000. She didn't know yet. Karma was already warming up. But something else happened during those months. I built a new network. Not through blood, but trust. Rosa became a friend. Dimitri, the security technician, offered to help. Fellow immigrant business owners rallied behind me. Sarah spread the word discreetly. Elena Volkov was alive, and she was fighting back. "You have an army," Sarah said, after a meeting with 6 immigrant entrepreneurs. "No," I corrected. "I have a family, a real one." 90 days after waking up, Mark called me into his office. He dropped a thick file on the table. "It's ready," he said. "This is the most airtight case I've built in 20 years. Then it's time. How do you want to do this?" "Publicly," I said. "I want everyone who thought I was gone to see me." Sarah grinned. "Marcus is throwing a big party next Saturday, New Beginnings. Half of Portland will be there." "Perfect. Then that's where I rise," I said. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget." January 15th, 4 months after the crash. I arrived at Marcus's new mansion at 8:30 p.m., dressed in a black Armani suit, heels, flawless hair, flawless makeup. I didn't look like a woman who'd spent a month in a coma. I looked like someone who had come to reclaim her throne. Sarah was with me, Mark too. 2 private investigators had hidden cameras rolling. Rosa came as well. She wouldn't miss it for the world. At the gate, security checked the list. "Name?" "Elena Volkov," I said clearly. "The former owner of this house, for now." They froze, radioed inside. Seconds later, Marcus appeared at the door. The moment his eyes landed on me, his face collapsed. Shock, disbelief, fear. "Mom," he stammered. "They said you couldn't walk, talk, think?" I finished coldly. Funny how motivation works when your kids try to kill you. Gasps rippled through the crowd behind him. Jennifer shoved her way forward, her face pale. "Mom, you're alive." "Surprised." I smiled, but there was no warmth. "I know it's disappointing. I survived, and I heard everything." "What are you talking about?" Jennifer tried fake tears, but her voice cracked. "We love you. We took care of you." "You sold my house while I was in a coma," I said, my voice echoing through the hall. "You liquidated everything. $5.8 million. Gone." Marcus snapped. "Composure gone. Someone had to handle things." "We had legal power of attorney." "Power to protect my assets," I shot back. "Not by Porsches, boats, and mansions." I turned to the crowd. I recognized many faces, colleagues, neighbors, people they'd lied to. "How many of you were told I'd never recover?" Hands slowly went up. "Lies. All of it. So they could spend my money without questions." Silence fell. You could feel the tension crackle. "You can't prove anything," Jennifer screamed, panic creeping in. "Everything was legal." I smiled, the kind of smile that made both of them step back. "Marcus, Jennifer, you remember the security cameras in my house? The obvious ones with the little red lights?" "Of course," Marcus said cautiously. "We turned them off. No point keeping them on in an empty house." Exactly what I expected. That's why I installed 17 hidden cameras, inside smoke detectors, clocks, frames, all connected to a private cloud. The color drained from their faces. You wouldn't know how to—" "I'm an immigrant who built an empire from scratch," I cut him off. "Of course I would." Mark stepped forward, voice firm. "Mark Reynolds, Mrs. Volkov's attorney. You're being served with lawsuits for power of attorney abuse, fraud, misappropriation of funds, and potentially attempted homicide." "Homicide?" Jennifer shrieked. "The brake lines on your mother's car were sabotaged," Mark said evenly. "Days after a confrontation. And we have recordings of you both talking about speeding up the timeline." Sarah connected the tablet to the giant TV in the living room, the one they'd bought with my money. The first recording played, "Marcus and Jennifer in my dining room, 3 weeks before the crash." "Marcus, she'll never sell willingly." "Jennifer, what if something happens?" "Marcus, then we get power of attorney. Liquidate everything before she recovers." The room went silent. Second recording, Jennifer on the phone from the hospital. "She won't wake up. We can start selling." Third, Jennifer to Derek. "Once she's dead, we can finally get married. No more secrets." Gasps. People turned to look at them with disgust. Marcus tried to yell. "It's out of context." "There's more," I said. Mark projected a photo of the basement heater. "This old heater," I explained, "never worked. They begged me to throw it out, but behind it was a hidden wall safe." Marcus and Jennifer froze. "What was inside?" Jennifer whispered. "Everything," I said. "Documents proving months of bad faith. Offshore accounts, property deeds, instructions to my lawyer. They sold what they found, but they never found everything." Mark displayed spreadsheets, every cent they stole, every luxury purchase, every transfer. $4 million spent in under 2 months, he told the crowd, all while claiming it was for their mother's medical care. Marcus shouted, desperate, "We deserved it. She was never there, working all the time. She owes us." That was it. "I owe you." My voice thundered through the hall. "I worked 16 hours a day so you could have schools, clothes, opportunities. I bled for you, and you tried to kill me for money." The crowd was dead silent. Some people cried. Others stared at my children with pure contempt. "They made one fatal mistake," I said, my voice turning cold. "They underestimated me. They forgot where I came from. They forgot survivors always have a plan B." "You can't do this," Jennifer screamed, her voice cracking. "The house was sold legally. The power of attorney was valid." "Power of attorney obtained through a false declaration of permanent incapacity," Mark replied calmly. "Except Elena wasn't permanently incapacitated. The moment she woke up, that document became void. Everything you did after that was fraud." "And before?" Marcus asked desperately. "What about what we sold while she was in a coma?" "That's the interesting part," Mark said with a cold smile. "Power of attorney requires acting in the best interest of the person. You sold properties below market value to get quick cash, liquidated investments with heavy penalties. You didn't protect her assets, you raided them. That's bad faith. It invalidates everything." I pulled a notarized letter from my bag. "And this," I said, "a letter I wrote 6 months before the accident, stating my suspicions and instructions in case something accidental happened to me. It was in the safe. It names both of you." Jennifer's shoulders slumped. Marcus looked 10 years older in a second. "What do you want?" Marcus finally asked. "Money? Take it all. Just don't press charges." "Money?" I laughed coldly. "This was never about money. It's about the fact that my own children decided I was worth more dead." I turned to the crowd. "Some of you watched me build my business from nothing. You saw the sacrifices, and now you've seen the result. Children who valued money more than blood." Mark laid the documents on the table. "Here's the deal. You return every cent, 5.8 million plus 8% interest annually. You'll pay it back over 20 years. If you refuse, we go to court, attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement, 10 to 20 years in prison. Each," Jennifer whispered, horrified. 20 years? "Considering what you did," Mark said. "That's generous." "And there's more," I added. "You'll sign a public statement admitting everything. It'll be filed in court, permanent record, and you'll stay away from me. No calls, no visits, no letters. Violate it, and the deal's off. They exchanged terrified glances. For once, no one had a trick left to play. "And Sophie?" I asked softly. Jennifer blinked. "You want to see her?" "When she's old enough to understand, she'll have the choice," I said. "A trust will be set up for her education, untouchable by either of you. She'll read the truth one day. Their punishment would be long, legal, and public, exactly as it should be." They signed. Of course they did. Because for all their cruelty and greed, Marcus and Jennifer were cowards. The thought of prison terrified them more than the humiliation of public exposure. 2 weeks later, the courthouse was packed to the walls. News crews lined the steps outside, cameras flashing, microphones raised like weapons. The headline had spread like wildfire. "Children try to kill mother for inheritance. She wakes from coma and destroys them." It was too sensational to ignore. Journalists, curious citizens, even law students filled the benches. Everyone wanted to witness the spectacle. Marcus and Jennifer entered the courtroom looking like shadows of themselves. The arrogance that once dripped from every word, every step, they'd lost it. Marcus's hair had gone gray at the temples. Jennifer wore no makeup, dark circles etched beneath her eyes. They shuffled like defendants in a crime drama, not children standing before their mother. They stood, clutching their pre-written statements, hands shaking slightly. One after another, they read their apologies. Admissions. Hollow words meant for the record, not for me. "I regret my actions. I made mistakes. We never meant to hurt her." Empty. Every syllable was empty. Their eyes said the truth. No remorse, only the bitter taste of being caught. As I listened, something unexpected settled inside me. Nothing, not rage, not sorrow, just a deep, heavy silence. The love I had carried for them died in that coma, replaced by something colder, but also lighter. Silence was easier than pain. Judge Robertson presided, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s with the presence of someone who had seen everything and judged it all. She leaned forward, her gaze cutting through the courtroom like a blade. "In 20 years on this bench," she began, her voice firm and clear, "I've seen many cases of family abuse, but this—" She looked at them as if they were insects under glass. "This is particularly vile. You didn't just exploit your mother's vulnerability. You may have orchestrated it." Marcus tried to interrupt. "Your Honor, there's no proof." Her gavel cracked like thunder. Silence. The courtroom jumped. "You're lucky," she continued, eyes narrowing, "that there isn't forensic proof. If there were, you'd be in prison, not standing here signing repayment agreements." Then she delivered the sentence with surgical precision. "You will repay $5.8 million plus annual interest over 20 years, $32,000 a month. If you miss a single payment, this deal is void and criminal charges proceed immediately. Understood?" "Yes, Your Honor," they muttered in unison, their voices hollow. She leaned back, pausing. "You've brought shame upon yourselves, upon your family, and you've underestimated the woman who gave you everything. That will be your legacy now." The gavel came down one final time. Bang! As I walked out of the courtroom, the flash of cameras hit like lightning. Reporters swarmed. "How does it feel knowing your children tried to kill you?" one shouted. I stopped, faced the cameras head on. "I feel free," I said simply. "Free from illusions. Free from obligations built on blood alone." Another reporter pushed forward. "Do you forgive them?" I thought about it for a moment, not for their sake, but for mine. "Forgiveness is for me," I replied. "I won't carry their betrayal forever. But forgiveness isn't reconciliation. I don't owe them trust, or a relationship. That part is over." And for the first time in years, as I walked down those courthouse steps, I didn't feel like someone's mother. I felt like myself. 18 months after I woke up, I sat in my new office. The house was smaller, but it was truly mine. I'd recovered $4.3 million. Some things were gone forever, but it didn't matter. Legacy isn't just money, it's impact. I created Elena's Second Chance Foundation, microloans for immigrants starting businesses, scholarships for their children, free English classes, legal guidance. All the help I wished I'd had when I arrived with nothing but a suitcase. Sarah became the director. Rosa ran health programs. Dimitri handled security for women escaping dangerous homes. And I worked with immigrant women every day, telling them strength isn't